Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
We have the Libertarian candidate for governor, Mark West, back on the program. Mark, welcome back, sir.
Thank you, Paul. Glad to be back.
You're here. This is your hometown.
Yes, it is.
So is this the first time we've met in person? Forgive me.
I believe it is.
Okay.
First time we've met in person.
Okay, so how is the campaign going?
So far, it's going a lot better than expected initially. We've had some surprise contacts. Some openings have come available, and I think over the next couple of months, you'll see some real surprising news and
really
things that will definitely, I think, will open some eyes, and we're looking to make a lot of noise as we get headed into the primary stretch. I'm hoping maybe we'll make enough noise that a Democrat will just continue to chicken out and run from Asa and just let me have him head on, because that's the race I'd prefer to have.
Well, of course. I mean, if that happens, and here's the thing. Democrat Party certainly is probably not going to want that to happen if we're honest about it, right?
Exactly.
I mean, they'd be better off with Asa than they would be with you, a libertarian, with limited government views.
Yeah, limited government seems to scare Asa and the Democrats, so I have trouble telling them apart. So
some Republicans as well, they're terrified of it.
Yeah, and that was the point I made in an interview the other day. Is I was asked how I feel about this race if a Democrat jumps in. I said I'd prefer to have Asa to myself, but if I have to share the spotlight, at least I can be the only opposition person in the race, because the other two are big government folks, and I'm the only one in the race that's going to stand for limited government. It's going to stand for constitutional carry and the things that really matter to everyday citizens in Arkansas.
Yeah.
Their freedoms and their liberties.
The GOP, they had their state rules committee meeting this past weekend, and from what I have heard, there was just a noticeable. It's not that there was any disrespect towards Governor Asa Hutchinson from his own party, but there was just a noticeable shift in, the honeymoon phase is clearly over. There are a lot of people who are just outspoken. They want actual change. They want actual limited government views. And I want to go back to Mr. West, Mark West, Libertarian candidate for governor. We're talking a lot about the Republican Party. There's obviously a lot of frustration among, people who label themselves conservatives or limited government people. I'm curious, and you don't have to name any names unless you want to, but is anybody from the GOP, the grand old party here in Arkansas, have they contacted you and been receptive to your candidacy as like, hey, I'm going to vote for you and as a protest vote?
I have received a lot of that type of contact through Facebook, through our email, through the website, or just through face-to-face. People find me and tell me, hey, I've been a GOP, all these years, and we in Arkansas have got the legislature, and we're acting just like the Democrats did, and they're frustrated with it, and they want to voice their opinion. They want to, tell Asa and the leadership in the GOP that have allowed this to happen, that allowed the legislature to be this rubber stamp for Asa, that limited government conservatism is still alive in Arkansas, and that's what they were elected to be. And there is a lot of frustration, and hopefully that all builds as my campaign builds, and we're able to channel that into a solid protest vote. That will just help us. It'll help us send that message clearly that conservatism matters.
Yeah.
People want limited government. They want their freedoms, and they want representatives that. And I don't want this to sound the wrong way, but they really want a governor who is going to allow the races beneath him to play out so that he's truly hearing the voice of the people in his legislature. That's what the legislature is there for. Those House members are supposed to be bringing what the people are saying in their House districts to the legislature. The senators are supposed to be bringing that to the Senate. It doesn't do Arkansas, it doesn't do the citizens of Arkansas any good for the governor to get his PACs or any of his money involved and push those campaigns in order to get his yes people in those spots, so that regardless of what the people say, his yes people are going to rubber stamp whatever his agenda is. That's unfair to Arkansas as a whole, and it's unfair to the GOP party.
Yeah,
when you really think about it.
That's a great idea. I mean, that's a great point. That it really is just kind of a little bit of a totalitarian bent to it, to just have absolute unity of thought. and it really is kind of asking the people to not just. I mean, I'm sure Asa would dispute this, but it does seem he's essentially saying, you know what, I'm not so sure I want to know the consent of the governed from this district or that district. I'd rather just let it be about me and let me control this and
well, that's why we have task force. Every time something goes wrong, there's another task force. We have this shooting at the nightclub down in Little Rock, and now we've got a task force, and it's a very limited task force. All the people on there, I hate to use this term, but a lot of them are hammers. When you show a lot of hammers a problem, they're going to come up with a hammer-type solution to the problem. But the problem with crime in Little Rock is a lot more than just gangs. There's a socioeconomic factor. There's a psychological factor. There is the generational poverty factor. There's so many other factors involved that you just can't say, well, we need to look at a police law enforcement way to handle it. You've got to look at a full community-focused way to handle it. But ASIN establishing his task force says, well, no, this is the direction I'm going to go.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, he's not listening to the community.
And that's the same thing with all of the other task forces.
Exactly.
Because, whether taxes or the health care, it was, where does ASA want to go? Let me get the legislators that are going to go ahead and get to the predetermined outcome. Back to that, Mark West, what's your website address?
It is markwest4governor.com. The 4 is the number 4, so Mark West, the number 4 governor.com.
Well, you just got me thinking, Charles, about that, contributions and needing money. Just wanted people to know that's
yes,
the
you can
address.
Donate there on the website. There's a link right there. Click donate, and we'd love to have. We've started the donation drive. So
we're going to take a break, folks. We're going to be right back in just a moment, live from Independence County in Batesville. It's the Paul Harrell program. Don't go anywhere. We've got the idea of the golden rule, which is such a biblical idea, such a Western civilization doesn't really exist without that concept. And then Dr. Bill Warner, he's a guy, you mentioned Islam. He's the golden rule and critical thought are two things that Western civilization is based on, and that's how, you this idea, if we do pass a law, we want to make sure it treats other people the way we would want to be treated. We certainly have lost that a lot of ways. I mean, if you look at the Obamacare situation and, with Congress and how they have a little easier on the health care side of things. I want to go now back to Libertarian candidate for governor. Mark West is still with us. Mark, you are also a pastor.
Yes, I am.
And you do that. You're a lay pastor, correct? Or do you do that?
Well,
you get compensated.
I do what you call bivocational pastoring.
Bivocational
I work
pastor.
full time and then also pastor a church.
Okay.
But I want to build on what Charlie was laying out as far as the biblical principles. Most libertarian philosophy is also built on a biblical principle: to do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. That is the basis of libertarianism. Is what we call the non-aggression principle, or the NAP. A lot of people will see, NAP, and they're like, well, what's that? Well, if you see it on Facebook or on Twitter, NAP just refers to the non-aggression principle. And boiled down, it is do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. That's what libertarians believe. You don't act in an aggressive way towards someone else, toward their life, their liberty, or their property, and they shouldn't act in an aggressive way towards you, and governments exist to deal with the difference.
Mediate the aggressive tendencies that are inevitably going to happen.
Inevitably, somebody's going to do that, because we are fallen people, and we, live lives that, as I preach on Sunday, we all sin, we all mess up, we all make mistakes. But the reality is, when we try to put these principles in place, that was what led me to libertarianism, was the Sermon on the Mount in the Bible. Actually, is what led me to libertarianism. This whole concept of being able to just really have this non-aggressive attitude toward people, this non-aggressive lifestyle toward others, and what sets libertarians apart from conservatives and is this concept of aggression. Is libertarians are let people live their lives. People are going to make their choices, and they're going to suffer the consequences of their choices. As long as that person isn't harming your life, your liberty, or your property, let them damage themselves all they want to. You can try to intervene and intercede compassionately, but don't get the government to step into their life and make them stop.
Because the government, you guys see the government as force. I mean, they've got the guns.
Force.
I mean, that's what it is.
They have the biggest guns. I mean, try not paying your taxes for a few years and see how big the guns are that show up at your door.
Yeah, you're exactly right. What do you... at the same time, though, sometimes libertarians, and really it's refreshing because a lot of times the national coverage, if libertarians ever do get mentioned, they only get mentioned a lot of times from people who are faithless. I've noticed that nationally. Have you noticed that? It seems like they're okay to talk about a potential third party, which is like, the sky would fall if that would ever actually happen as far as, be on the ballot every time, always have that. But then when they do get mentioned, it's maybe more towards the agnostic, atheist people, because there is room for those people in your party based on what you just described.
Right. As long as you're willing to live a life that isn't going to, or as far as your political philosophy, you're not going to try to use the government as an aggressive object for what you want, then you're practicing libertarianism. The unfortunate side of things is, as you said, libertarianism is often set right beside atheism or agnosticism, when really there are a lot of people in libertarian, especially in Arkansas. The Libertarian Party of Arkansas is full of Christian people that believe in God, that love God. We get mixed up a lot, with your two major parties are based on single issue type things, like your Republicans are pro-life and your Democrats are pro-abortion, whereas your Libertarians are like, well, we leave that to their conscience. Now, as for me, when I look at the non-aggression principle, I say, well, abortion is an aggressive act against a person's life, therefore we should have government to protect life. So I'm a pro-life libertarian. And in Arkansas, most of your libertarians are pro-life. Mm-hmm. But we are also connected to a national party that has both. It allows for both viewpoints. So we have to overcome that, because most of the national coverage we get isn't really the platform we hold in this state. And I have to battle a lot of that on my campaign as well. You're a libertarian, so all you're interested in is, people killing their babies and people smoking their dope, and those are all the things you hear about.
I'm voting for Mark West so I can do some heroin.
Exactly.
That's what I'm doing.
But that's not where the libertarian philosophy goes. We understand that. I'm what you would call a minarchist libertarian, which is, for those that don't know what minarchist and libertarians are split down the middle. Your anarchists believe no government, it's a free-for-all. Minarchists believe that you do need a limited form of government because mankind is prone to evil, bad tendencies. We're prone to aggress against each other, so a small government should exist to help stop that, to keep people from aggressing against each other. And that's where I fall, is more on the minarchist viewpoint, the viewpoint that we need a small, limited government that is designed very specifically, very limitedly to protect life, liberty, and property, and it has no other function outside of that, and it shouldn't have any function outside of that. And most of the problems we have, if you really think about what you hear about on TV every night, are issues where our governments are stepping past that mandate. And that's where we get into fights. And socialism is a huge leap past that mandate. And as Charlie was pointing out, communism does the same thing. It tries to say, well, we're trying to have this communal society, but we have these elite that run it, and that's what we have here in America. And that's why third parties struggle, is we have this mindset where it's a first past the post type thing, where it's hard for third party to gain traction, because it's always looked at, well, if I lean conservative and I vote for the libertarian, then I'm stealing votes from the more conservative of the two candidates. Right. And so you run into that issue in first past the post voting, and that's what hurts us as a third party is that mindset.
We're talking here live from Independence County, where the Mark West Libertarian candidate for governor. We're going to have to take a break. But Mark West, Libertarian candidate for governor, Mark West. If you missed our first hour, we talked to Mark West and Mr. Fuqua, and it was really good stuff. Talked about republicanism versus libertarianism. But I'm just interested, Mark. You've just been kind of sitting here listening to this. What are you have any reaction or any thoughts to some of this stuff?
Well, one of the core fundamentals that he talked about in his as he went on was liberty. Freedom. Mm-hmm. The gospel is about freedom, and it's about liberty. It's about choice. Giving people the choice and the opportunity to choose their life. How they want to live their life the way they want to, and we have to address and we have to deal with different viewpoints and different perspectives because people are going to have them. We are in America, and people are going to have different viewpoints, different perspectives, and we need to confront them where they are. As he talked about with some of the political realities with Islam and some of the tie-ins there with communism. But one of the things that
if I may, it's just King Solomon said nothing is new under the sun, and so that's why I think you have these what appear to be different, Marxism, political Islam, but the ideas, the core, kind of the same thing. Anyway, continue. I'm sorry.
Right, and what we want to see, especially in Arkansas and in America as a whole, is we want to see a place where people continue to have that freedom and actually have that expansion of freedom, the expansion of liberty. And we can't have that, as you said, in this state where the government remains unreformed.
Mm-hmm.
We continue to be a state where the government encroaches on people's rights, on people's freedoms. They do it through taxation. They do it through regulation. You talked, I don't remember if it was yesterday, may have been, where you talked about the cell phone, the new cell phone law.
Yes, yeah.
That's going to lead, it's passed as a law as well. We're going to pass this law and this regulation, but really it's about revenue, because really it's not going to prevent accidents. It's probably going to cause more, because people are going to try to be hide the phone under the dashboard.
Yeah, if they would just understand human nature.
Running down the road.
Yeah.
And that's what the libertarian philosophy says is, we understand that people are going to be people, and we can pass laws to protect people and to try to deal with aggression when it happens. You're going to have people, when someone commits a murder, you have a law that deals with what happens to someone when they commit a murder, when someone steals something, or when someone lies or violates a contract they've made. You have laws in place to deal with those. But the problem we have is one of the creepy things that government does is well, we're going to protect you by passing this other law, but really this law isn't for your protection, it's for revenue.
Yeah.
And we have to guard against that, and that was one of the reasons that I was so aggravated about the internet sales tax. You talked about State Representative Sturch earlier. When the internet sales tax was a big thing, and Asa was really pushing it. I remember Sturch had a Facebook post, this long Facebook post explaining why we should, go right along with it, because it's good for us.
He's a yes man for the governor. James Sturch is a yes man for the governor. We're broadcasting in his district right now, by the way. Go ahead.
But that's one of the things that government, that people who want to grow their own power do, is they use the auspices of government as, well, we're doing something good for you, so you vote for us to take your rights away so we can do something good for you. And that's what the internet sales tax was about, was, here, you sell us out your rights, to purchase products without having to pay a state tax, to purchase, from Amazon or wherever you purchased. And, you're going to get this, money back into the community, or you'll get this.
It all goes to the government.
Right, but it all winds up in Little Rock, the swamp in Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to deal with the swamp in Arkansas. And that's the problem we've had, is we've had a failure of leadership in Little Rock. What we've had is a leader in Little Rock who has his own agenda, and his agenda isn't to put Arkansas first. We need somebody who's going to sit in the governor's mansion and put Arkansas first. When Congress is pushing a new tax, or when Congress is pushing a crappy fake budget like the ones they do, where they shift this there, shift things around so it looks like we're doing good when really we're in trouble. Or when you have a governor who's pushing this Arkansas Works, or whatever you want to call this Medicaid expansion, pushing it as though, we need this for the people, people need this, when really it's all about control. Asa wants to control where the Medicaid money goes. He wants to make sure that people that are putting money in are getting their money back. He wants to make sure that all these people in the healthcare industry that are donating to his campaign, or donating to his Yes People's campaigns, he wants to make sure that that money comes back to them. And having this Medicaid expansion, begging the U.S. government to send us money, because if the U.S. government cuts us off, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
Because we don't have the money to pay for it.
10% is going to be $1 billion a year that we're going to have to come up with to fund this stuff.
The money just isn't there, and to continue to deceive the people that the money's going to be there, that the federal government's going to take care of us, it's crazy. It shows this mindset that we can trust the government to take care of us. and don't take care of yourself. We want the government to take care of you. Don't think for yourself. Let us think for you.
Yeah.
So it just destroys liberty, and that's what we've got to fight against.
We're going to be right back. We're going to take a quick break. Right back, we'll be with candidate for governor Mark West. My apologies. Candidate for governor Mark West. We'll be back with him. He's going to wrap things up. He's got to leave at 5:30. And then welcome back to the program here. We got about, we got about 2 minutes before we hit the hard break. We're going to finish up here with the Libertarian candidate for governor, Mark West. What's your website again, Mark?
It is markwestforgovernor.com, and that is the number 4, markwestforgovernor.com.
This is the second time that you've been on the program, but this is the first time in person that we've met, and you've been on for quite a long time. And I just want to say, you're welcome on any time because I really appreciate your ideas, and I appreciate your campaign. I appreciate that you're willing to stand up and try to challenge what the status quo is. And right now, the status quo really has nothing to do with a libertarian platform, from what I can see.
Right, and it really doesn't have much to do with a conservative platform either. I mean, I really am running as the opposition candidate in this race. There is no opposition to big government, and that's what I hope to do with this campaign, is to let the people see that there is a different way to do government. There is a different way to preserve our freedoms and our liberties, and at the same time protect life, liberty, and property. And that's the goal of my campaign, is to get that message out as often as I can.
All right. Well, we appreciate it. Mark West, Libertarian candidate for governor, and we will talk to you again soon.
All right. Thanks, Paul. Thanks
I just want to say, anybody else that runs for governor wants to come on the program is more than welcome to come on, and especially if you are currently a governor of the state of Arkansas, you're welcome to come on the program anytime and talk about, the reality of your policies.